Hi everyone, Dr. Remy from Pain Free and Fit and Posture Size. Today we've got the most important stretches to do for spondylolisthesis of the lower back, part 1. Hope you enjoy. So keep in mind that with these stretches, as is the case with any healing exercise, you need to make sure that you're correcting any mechanical issues that you have, any postural abnormalities while you're doing the stretch. Otherwise, as you're doing the stretch, if you're not holding your unique postural corrections or RPIs, reverse posture isometrics, then you're only promoting more dysfunction of the soft tissues by not engaging and targeting the corrections needed for your body, which ultimately is only going to put more stress on your spondylolisthesis rather than removing the stress, which is the whole point of healing exercises. So we're going to talk about 4 great hip flexor stretches here in part 1 of our series on stretching for spondylolisthesis, because remember, many times with spondylolisthesis there's an anterior pelvic malposition where the tailbone sits higher than the pubic bone, and as a result it increases the arch of the lower back, promotes a compression or jamming down on the facet joints in the back of the spine, helps to drive that spondylolisthesis vertebra more forward and creates more problems at the back of the disc, as well as several soft tissues in the spine. So if you've analyzed yourself and you've found that you do have an anterior pelvis, and again, if you're not sure about your body analysis, you can go to either the Pain Free and Fit or Posture Size websites. We have a free body analysis there. Get checked out, figure out what your unique posture and mechanical issues are of your lower back, pelvis, and entire body that are negatively affecting the stresses on your spondylolisthesis. If you do have an anterior pelvis, we're going to begin with the first stretch, which is the Psoas stretch. We're going to place one leg straight back behind us at a comfortable degree, and we're going to tuck our tailbone under and our pubic bone up. Now, the typical mistakes with this stretch are that if you have a tendency to externally rotate your leg, you're going to lose the stretch on that psoas because that leg is going to want to externally rotate, and that's not going to put the proper mechanical correction into your spine. The top of that psoas muscle actually attaches to the discs and vertebra on your spine and helps to accentuate that forward pull or that increased curve in your lower back, that hyperlordosis. So we want to make sure that that back leg is facing straight forward. Again, with any stretch, you only tuck the tail under until you feel the mildest pull somewhere in the groin. You can accentuate that by squeezing the buttock muscle. Remember, if you've not found yet on our video series how to recruit buttock muscles, most of the time it's a matter of tensing the tailbone under more to recruit the abs. That releases the tight erector spinae muscles, which is a big problem in many people's spondylolisthesis, and helps us to engage the glute. When that glute is contracting, it puts a further relaxation through a reciprocal inhibition, neurological inhibition of antagonists and agonists, opposite muscle functions, that helps us to release that psoas muscle, creating a nicer pull. With any stretch, we're going to hold that for 15 to 60 seconds until that feeling of stretch fades. Once it does, we can use 3 aspects to increase that stretch. We could either tuck the tailbone under a little more for a second stretch, squeeze the buttock a little harder, or scoot the leg back a little bit more. Other common mistake to watch out for with this psoas stretch is the opposite side likes to hip hike. If that opposite side is hip hiking, you're losing the neutral spine position that's good for your spine. You want to make sure that that opposite hip is level with the other as you do that stretch. Second stretch for hip flexors are the rectus femoris. That's the front quad muscle that attaches the pelvis. That also, when it's tight, helps to bring that pelvis forward, accentuating the curve in the back and aggravating spondylo. We're going to grab our heel or our ankle and pull it towards the buttock. If you don't have the flexibility to do such, you could use a band or a rope around your ankle and pull it upwards. Now the key here to target the rectus femoris, and if you want you could hold on for a little balance if you need it standing on one leg, is as we bring that heel towards the buttock, we want to make sure that the thigh is slightly behind the other one. If the thigh is forward, we're going to lose a lot of that positive effect in terms of our stretch for that rectus femoris. So we want to make sure the thigh is slightly behind, and as we bring the thigh behind, of course, we need to maintain that tailbone tuck under or pubic bone up so that we don't overarch our back, because the typical mistake is as we bring a leg back or try to increase the stretch, many people trying to stretch their quads will actually accentuate the stretch in the lower back because they're not countering this with tail under. So avoid that, because otherwise you're losing not only the effect of the stretch, but you're also increasing the arch in the back and probably aggravating that spondylolisthesis. So we bring it up to a point with tail under first, then bring the leg back till you feel a little pull somewhere in the front of the thigh, the knee. Again, 15 to 60 seconds, you want to hold that position until it releases. Then tail under maintains the spine in a neutral position as you bring the thigh back a little more. You can see as I bring my thigh back, I'm trying to localize the pull in my hip joint, the ball and socket. I'm not, as I bring that thigh back, arching the back, keeping that back flat as I bring the thigh up. Next stretch is for the tensor fascial lata, or TFL ITB complex. That's another hip flexor muscle that tightens many times in spondylolisthesis. We can do this two ways. Standing, we're going to place the leg to be stretched across and behind us, and then we bend both knees and push our hip sideways and slightly forward. And you'll feel a little stretch on the side of the hip, possibly going down the thigh. You could also do that in a lying position, where we're going to take the involved leg to be stretched. In this case, it's my top leg, my left. Hold the tail under position, bring the leg behind, and slightly down until you feel that same stretch. The problem with this stretch that many people do is they have a tendency on either side to push the whole pelvis down and long. That opens up the side of the back, but it also compresses the other side. So depending on your unique situation, you may actually be aggravating, let's say, a right-sided facet or disc compression on this side while you have your leg back. So you want to make sure that you keep your hand on your hip. Your hip doesn't move, your whole pelvis doesn't move, but just the leg and the hip socket, so you're not creating too much of an unevenness between the ribs and the pelvic bone. Again, you want to hold that for 15 to 60 seconds. Once the stretch passes, you can then do a second stretch or even a third. But again, each time you're stretching, you're holding it just to the point of feeling a mild stretch. If you stretch too far in any of these stretches, you're going to elicit a response from the muscle spindle, which is a receptor in our muscles that's taking a monitor of the length and the change of length of our muscle. And if we have too much of a length change, the body may perceive an irritation, the muscle spindle will be stimulated, and the body will actually contract or shorten or tighten that muscle, which is going against the whole idea of a stretch. So keep your stretches mild and gentle. So the fourth hip flexion stretch for spondylolisthesis is targeting the hip adductor muscles. Primarily, we're targeting three muscles that attach more to the front aspect of the pelvis: the pectineus, the adductor longus, and the gracilis, all three of which, when they shorten and tighten, pull the pubic bone down, lift the tail up, compress the back portion of the lower back, and aggravate spondylolisthesis. So we're going to use a stretch where we integrate abdominal control with our stretch. We're going to separate our feet to a stance where we feel a slight pull on the inside of our thighs. Our toes or our feet will be angled slightly outwards. And then in that position, we're going to tuck the tail under. This engages the abdominal muscles, which helps to integrate mid-body and lower body into one stretch. We've shown this stretch before here on the channel. And we tilt it under until we feel a slight accentuation of that stretch on the inner thighs. Hold for 15 to 60 seconds. When the muscles feel like they relax or release like any other stretch, we're then going to tuck the tail under a little bit more. From the side, that looks like this. Just a slight tail under until I feel an accentuation of that stretch. And upon relaxation, between 15 and 60 seconds, I'll go a little further tail under or separate my legs a little bit more. Using those four stretches will help to open up the tightness on the hip flexors, and over time, if you do that 2 to 3 times a day, will help to reduce the hip flexor contribution of anterior pelvic tilting, decreasing the stress on your spondylolisthesis. If you like this video series and would like to help me share it with others who need relief from their spondylolisthesis, give me a thumbs up below. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to learn more healing exercises for spondylo, subscribe to our channel. We got a lot of great videos not only on stretches but healing exercises. And I hope this stretching series part 1 helps you with your spondylolisthesis. Part 2 is coming up. We're going to be viewing 2 other muscles, the erector spinae and the latissimus, that play a significant role in spondylolisthesis pain.